Okay, 6 p.m. We're gonna call the meeting of the Charter Township Bedford Planning Commission to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. Whenever you're ready with roll call, sure.
Mike Staff,
Present?
Tracy Greenwood,
Present.
Kevin Bellison,
Here.
Tony Walters,
Here.
Claudia Brown,
Here.
Robert Jones,
Here.
Shirley Tuggle, here. 7 are present, quorum staff.
All right. Thank you. Next item is approval of the July 23rd, 2024 agenda. All right,
I'll move.
Connie? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Claudia? Any discussion on the agenda? Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, roll call on that, please.
Okay. Commissioners, Shirley Tuggle, yes. Robert Jones.
Yes.
Claudia Brown.
Yes.
Tony Walters.
Yes.
Kevin Bellison.
Yes.
Trustee Stacy Greenwood.
Yes.
Chairman Mike Staff.
Yes.
7 affirmative, motion carried.
All right, thank you. Next item is approval of the June 25th, 2024 meeting.
I'll move. I'll second.
Barb. And then Dawn. Any discussion on those meeting minutes? Any discussion on the minute?
No, one first.
All right, roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioners, Tony Walters,
Yes.
Claudia Brown.
Yes.
Robert Jones,
Yes.
Shirley Tuggle. Yes. Kevin.
Yes.
Trustee Stacy Greenwood,
Yes.
Chairman Mike Staff.
Yes,
7 affirmative, motion carries.
thank you. Next item on the agenda is going to be our liaison report from trustee Greenwood.
Hello, everyone. We had spoken about the last issue when we reviewed in the zoning ordinance, as you guys are well aware. There was an issue regarding how to address decibels and different noise issues. So the board took that on and did a first draft reading and moved that over. Noise is addressed in a police power ordinance. It's the disorderly conduct ordinance. And what we did was we moved that penalty provision from a municipal civil infraction to a misdemeanor. So if residents have any issues with noise, anything that happens on the weekend, that will no longer be a zoning issue. They can call the Battle Creek Police Department or non-emergency dispatch and have that taken care of. And other than that, I have anything else to report.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is going to be the building and zoning administrator, Woody McCarty report. He did enclose that there.
Realizing, printed the June 20th report and connected it to this month's permit list. It's been a few days with the printer guy, so. we're getting that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's business as usual. A lot of urban livestock measurement requests this week, specifically in this week. Working on the marijuana licensing. Yeah, pretty much business with full blown construction season right now.
The urban livestock people, calling to get their permits and follow rules and things of this nature.
Yep, it's been a lot of Jim, our code compliance officer, going out for other things and realizing they have chickens.
Okay.
So, yeah, send them down my way and yeah.
Get you to be the bad guy, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful. Anything else?
Nope, yeah, pretty much that.
All right, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is going to be a public hearing for a rezone request for 2601, excuse me, to rezone the property addressed 1041 North Avenue, Battle Creek, Michigan, 49017. It's going to be parcel number 0437010300. Legally described as Bedford Township, Morgan Woods, lots 106 and 107. It's the subject property. Requesting to be rezoned from the RB medium residential district zoning classification to the C commercial district zoning classification. Subject property is approximately 0.44 acres in size. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing? Claudia and then Trust Phillipson. Yep. Claudia and again.
Okay.
And for formality purposes, can we do roll call on that, please?
Chairman, my staff,
Yes.
commissioners. Kevin Ballison,
Yes.
Tony Walters.
Yeah.
Claudia Brown. Ralph Jones.
Yeah.
Eric Tuggle, yes. Trustee Stacy Greenwood.
Yes.
Okay. Affirmative 7, motion carries.
Thank you. So before we hear from the public, comment here, does the applicant have anything that they would like to, I assume you're the applicant?
I do.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to add? Okay, yeah, you can step up to the podium if you'd like. Yeah, please. Thank you.
Cody had mentioned that you guys were looking for a spot for the Bedford Farmers Market to go. I'm more than willing for them to use my parking lot. If you guys are willing for them to use the land behind the fire station. Also, I know that every time there's like the November vote and everything, the whole road is just filled with cars. You're more than welcome to use my parking lot. I will be closed on that day anyways. Yeah, that's just me being a good nature. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, any questions? You guys want to know anything about it? Or-
I have a couple. So your proposed business is going to be kind of is what, I guess, that you're looking to put there?
Well, it's a 6,000 square foot building,
Okay.
the sub-level, it's not really a basement, it has main floor kind of windows, but you go down the stairs, that's all gonna be open for, antique vendors, or antique vendors, it's called Artique.
Okay.
And upstairs is gonna be mostly for artisans, and I wanna open a refillery store, which is basically you bring your own bottles in, fill up with organic shampoos, conditioners, all of that, and be working with the women in Michigan through like Mama Suds and people from out of Detroit and everything, hoping to bring that here. Cause it's growing in Michigan, so, and I think Battle Creek could use one, I mean, Battle Creek is going green, you know, so. Kind of want to be on
I'll be
the
there.
forefront of it. Good, I'm so glad, yeah, a lot of people are really, you know, open to the refillery business, and everybody's like, oh, cool, an antique shop, and I'm like, that's gonna be my bread and butter until this refillery gets up, I'm more excited than that. But yeah, the refillery should be very nice, actually. It's
So
gonna
this
be
is
gorgeous.
something we haven't seen in Bedford.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen it, period. Yeah.
Well, there's
Like-
one in Kalamazoo, called Be Loyal, I think it is,
Okay.
and there's two actually in Grand Rapids. There's 3 of them this year opening up in Lansing, there's like 4 over in Detroit, but they're all in the big cities right now.
Right.
And the one in Kalamazoo, nobody else is opening one up, and it's very small, so I'm like, well, let's try it, you know? Sounds like,
This is interesting.
yeah.
I love it.
And that's just gonna be on the lower floor you said, or?
The antiques will be on the upper, or the lower floor, and Artique will be on the upper floor where they would hold like mass and everything in this huge room that have 8 chandeliers on the ceiling. It's gonna be gorgeous. I can't wait. I'm so excited for it. That's why I was like, I told him, I said, should I be there? Can I ask a question? Should I be there? He goes, yeah, go ahead and come. So, like, So, and your husband just actually did work for me,
Oh, really?
clearing my land.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
your name is Tawny, and I mean, I'm sorry, that is a very unique.
I don't pay attention to what he does, so.
You guys, he came over and cleared out our land beautifully for us. It looks so nice.
I'm happy that worked out for you.
So is this the church, the old church?
Yeah, it sure is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and for a while, it's been closed, I think, for 2 or 3 years, and then before that, it was like, for 4 years, they were selling tamales out of it. I mean, that's what I was told. I didn't know it was a store or a restaurant, so, yeah, yeah.
Any other questions for the applicants? Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, we will open, public comment on the rezone request only at 6:11. Is there any comments from the public for the rezone request currently in front of the commission at this time? All right, seeing no public comment, we will close that at 6:12. Okay, in your packet, guys, was a report that Cody put together highlighting, the subject property in question. Showing what it's, obviously currently zoned as, medium density residential. You can see just to what would be, I guess, the north of that property is commercial. And then he also went ahead and broke down the comparison there, the different uses and permitted and special uses, just for us to take a look at. And consider, all the uses that, can take place, obviously, if we choose to rezone to the commercial application, which would be, obviously they're listed there, but the big one that everyone will talk about will be the marijuana. Does anybody have any questions about the report that Cody has put together here for us, highlighting those different uses in the districts? Good job.
Yeah, good job, thank you.
Okay, does everybody have their land use maps with them?
I don't, or yours. If yours is one.
All right, so if you take a look at your existing land use map, you can see quite clearly that that subject property is right there at the end where we have commercial to the north. And then everything along North Avenue that's in Bedford Township there to the south, except for what's at the very, very end, is neighborhood residential.
Along the commercial corridor though,
Correct, yes.
and adjacent to a commercial property.
Yep.
Here.
So if you go ahead and pull out your future land use map. You can see that the future land use has the projected use for that as mixed use, which is going to be a mix, obviously, of commercial and residential. Taking a look at that. That is what the goal of the township was to expand that commercial corridor down there via mixed use, obviously. Anybody have any questions about the two maps in front of them? And the distinction, and then obviously the future land use map suggesting that that would be an appropriate rezone. So it's going to be on the bottom, if you're looking at it, the bottom right corner. Yep, at the very bottom. Yep, the current land use is going to have a red square, and the future land use is going to have purple.
Yeah.
That future land use map obviously extends the mixed use all the way down North Avenue there. Just with the I think it was 150-foot setback we ended up with on that.
So can we, and I didn't bring mine, so my apologies, to just review the criteria for what mixed use looks like in the master plan.
Sure, yeah. So
One point three one is of the most point.
no, that's it right there. That is gonna be section 7, page 43. For those that want to follow along, and that's gonna be your master plan. That will not be the zoning ordinance draft that you have in front of you. You want me to give you a minute?
Yeah, that's. That's fine.
If you get all the information.
You know, it follows, but I think if we, as a formality, we have to go through and make sure that it adheres to what's.
Everybody have it in front of them?
Already? I read about that one.
All right, so mixed use. You would like the general characteristics? I'll just read it and safely. Seems everybody doesn't have a copy of it, or do you want the appropriate land use? That's
With the appropriate land
Okay.
uses, I think.
okay. So the appropriate land uses. The mixed use category envisions performance-based zoning that meets the community goals as outlined in the executive summary, as discussed in detail in the goals, policies, and actions of this plan. As the community goals are the cornerstone of this master plan, key points which promote the advancement of the mixed use category include the following: promoting development that enhances the township by discouraging strip development both along M89 and the Bedford Village area, reducing urban sprawl by directing development with the corresponding growth boundaries, encouraging these areas to develop walkable communities, and providing buffer between adjacent land uses. The mixed use category provides elements to support the community goals. It doesn't exactly have the listed appropriate uses. But mixed use is gonna be a mix between commercial and residential, and obviously that is a business we're wanting to go in there, so. That checks the box of mixed use in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I would say it falls within the limit.
As far as consistency and compatibility for general land use patterns within the area, obviously there's a commercial property adjacent to it, and there is commercial property further to the south. So a rezone here to commercial would make sense.
Definitely.
Suitability of proposed uses in the zoning district. Mixed use is obviously a mix between commercial and residential. They're proposing a commercial business there, so that qualifies. Adequacy of the public services. They're literally right next door to the fire station, so you can't get a better deal with that. Traffic, they've got a large parking lot. I drove by there, easy ingress and egress, so I can't see how changing this to a commercial property would have any effect on, traffic there on North Avenue in particular. Identifiable public need. We're obviously always looking for new businesses and new opportunities to come into town. I don't know, it sounds like something that is not everywhere, so that's exciting, right? So I definitely think that there's a need for something like that, or at least the possibility of it. And then, citizen opposition, obviously, we took public comment and we heard none. Does anybody else have any other discussion, questions or concerns regarding the applicant and their proposed change to commercial?
Would you like me to?
Yes.
I will make a motion to approve, the recommendation, to the Township Board of Trustees for Crystal Smith at 2601 West Talbot Road to rezone property addressed at 1041 North Avenue, Battle Creek, Michigan, 49017. Parcel ID number 04-370-103-00 and legally described as Bedford Township, Morgan Road, lots 106 and 107. In the medium resident district zoning classification over to commercial district zoning classification.
I second.
Ditto.
And just to clarify for everybody, that motion, yes, would be an affirmative and agreeing that you would like to see it rezoned from commercial or from the medium density to commercial.
Commercial. Yes.
Sorry. Roll call whenever you're ready.
So. Trustee Stacy Greenwood,
Yes.
Commissioners Kevin Zellison.
Yes.
Tony Walters,
Same.
Claudia Brown.
Yeah.
Barbara Jones,
Yeah.
Chairman Mike Stan,
Yeah,
and Commissioner Shirley Tuttle, yes. Affirmative 6 with 1 abstention. Motion prevailed. 6-1. She abstained, Tony.
okay, and before we move on to the next thing, just to give the applicant a little kind of heads up here of how things work. I don't know if Cody has walked you through that next part of the process or not. But this will go over to the county for their review, which they have 30 days to do. I don't think they meet again until the end of September. Or no, end of August, sorry. Yeah, sorry, end of August. And then pending that, the board will, get the recommendation from us, and then they ultimately have final approval on that. So I would think the possibility of maybe a September board meeting for you on the rezone request. And then obviously, if you have any other questions about the technicalities and nuances of that, Cody's available in the office during the week.
Oh, I know, I thought it was.
Wonderful.
Plug and play.
Great. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the public hearing to consider the adoption of a new zoning ordinance regulating the development and use of the land for Bedford Township. Summary as follows. I'm going to read what the different articles are and what they are titled as, just so everybody understands from the public what we're talking about. Article 1, title, purpose, and scope. Article 2, the zoning district. Article 3, table of permitted uses. Article 4, uses. Article 5, the general provisions. Article 6, nonconformities. Article 7, off-street parking and loading requirements. Article 8, landscaping and screening. Article 9, walls and fences. Article 10, setting forth sign regulations within the township. Article 11 are the performance standards. Article 12 are the planned unit developments. Article 13, processes and procedures. Article 14, the township administrative organization. Article 15, rules of construction, and Article 16, definition. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Claudia and then Connie. And again, for formality purposes, can we do roll call on that, please?
All right, we'll start with the commissioners, Barbara Jones,
Yes.
Bonnie Brown.
Yeah.
Charlotte Tubman, yes. Tony Walters.
Yes.
Kevin Ballison.
Yeah.
Trustee Stacy Greenwood,
Yes.
Chairman Mike Stack.
Yes.
Affirmative 7, motion prevails.
All right, thank you for that. Before we get into our discussion, we do need to allow the public comment time on the zoning ordinance within itself. Again, this is only on the zoning, the draft zoning ordinance, I'm sorry. We'll open that at 6:26. Are there any public comment on the draft zoning ordinance?
Adam Michael, former supervisor. Because of the comments that I was hearing in the discussion of what you guys are doing about changes. The fact that, you know, this is about as big as the public we get here for your meetings, and the fact that you're gonna be changing things that affect people in their lives. I wouldn't want to be voting. I've said that from day one. I mean, whether it takes longer to happen, we're already behind and not done things in the proper process as far as what the state law actually says this township is supposed to be doing. So making things take longer simply to get proper input, proper participation, which is really what your guys' job and goal should be, is driving this to be done. Your meetings should be packed with people sharing information, wanting to help you to make the right decision for this community. We still don't get any, we don't know how, and we can say, oh, we put it out there on, you know, things we had to do on, you know, line, or we put it on the newspaper and, you know, these standard things, right? But what all have you done fully, truly? Grabbing people and telling them and exciting them to be here. Because the majority of the time they don't get excited to be here because they see what happens when people do bring concerns like I have and others have, how they're talked to and treated to here. And then they say that we're the problems. We then get punished and made to be a problem when we're not. We're the concerned citizens that are voicing for many of these people that don't know the changes that are happening. You guys do it, and then down the road, you're all going to all of a sudden get multiple people coming out for many different of these changes going, oh, when did this happen? How did this happen? When did this go? Because we as a township, as a community, just do not do it properly. And I've said it before, I wouldn't vote on any of this if I were you guys. You don't have the proper input. You have a Marxist system of outside controllers right here that has told you what to do on everything that you've done. You guys sat here and talked back and forth to him only. That's made all of these decisions. So.
Thank you, Mr. Heckler, for those comments. Is there any other public comment on the draft zoning ordinance that's in front of the commission at this time?
What changes like
like, I don't understand, 'cause, I mean, I really, I don't need to jump in, I don't know what's going on.
If you'd like, you can step up to the podium and address any question you have, and then we can't get into a back and forth, but we can address your comments during our discussion.
And that's what I wanted, this is my first time ever coming to one of these, I mean, granted, I have lived now in Bedford this long. But I mean, just dealing with Cody and, another woman that's in the office. You guys have been more than accommodating, I don't know what articles he's talking about. I really don't, but, you know, they, and on behalf of me, they sent out, you know, letters to the people around, asking them to come here to oppose or, you know, whatever they needed to do on my behalf for my business that I want to open. And I mean, this might sound rude, but I mean, we're all adults. We're either gonna come or we're not, you know, and it's not for them to go out, grab them from their houses and drag them in here.
We did.
I don't, if there are big changes coming, I mean, it's gonna be in the news.
We can address some of those concerns that you have when we get into our discussion. Is there any other comment on the zoning ordinance other than the changes?
I'm scared, man, like, well, big changes, what's happening?
Thank you. Any other comments from the public at this time on the draft zoning ordinance? I will close that at 6:32. All right, before we get into our discussion, I will address some of the comments that we just heard. We have posted online like we're supposed to. Every copy of the draft ordinance has been online weeks in advance. With all the revisions, so I mean, you can go back and look at the first one, and you can go back and look at the one we have listed now, and you'll be able to see all the changes. I actually agree with Mr. Heikela. I would love to see the room full of people, but you know, it is, we can certainly argue whether or not it's our job to go to every resident's house and make them show up, but I mean, you know, we've posted and done everything that we need to do there. That we can do there. It is certainly disappointing that we don't have more people, but that's just kind of one of those things.
Right.
So, as far as the changes that are going, I mean, part of the problem that we always have, as far as the public understanding the zoning ordinance in general, is that it's confusing. And basically what we are doing is changing the rules that govern the community, essentially. And not so much changing, we're not changing everything. We're not turning the apple cart upside down. We're just clarifying and making things better. So I wanted to address those comments before we got into our discussion. That being said, everybody has a stapled 3-page list that Trustee Greenwood was nice enough to put together for us. So if everybody just wants to pull that out, it would have been right there. It's going to say questions and clarifications right on the top. Does everybody have that? Okay. All right, so obviously, we were tasked, this last time here with, kind of what are going to be our final revisions. I hope that everybody's had a chance to kind of go through and, you know, make sure that the zoning ordinance, the draft is kind of what you envisioned it was going to be. We've got a couple lists here. Like I said, Stacy has got, hers that she has submitted for us that has, clarifications that we'll go over with Kyle here in just a minute. And then I've got a number of clerical things that we'll touch on just briefly. The goal here is not necessarily to discuss, like, you know, revamping the entire thing, but just making sure that we're all on the same page with what changes we're gonna be making and what clerical things that we want to make sure, are good to go. So we're gonna kind of just go article by article, not page by page. We'll just touch on, certain pages that have been highlighted where we need, some clarification. And we will go ahead and we will start, Kyle, are you looking at your stuff there? Okay, all right. So if we just start with Article 1, folks, it's like the third page in there. It doesn't actually have a page number, but it's, section 1.01. It's, yep, right in the front. Article 1, and then, section 1.04. We just needed some clarification from Kyle on this. It says this ordinance is based on the Bedford Township Master Land Use Plan approved by the Board of Trustees on, and then it has the insert date. So the question we have, obviously, so we've got, master land use plan, we have a future land use map. Is that a distinction that we need to make so that, the residents, when they are looking at that, they're looking at the same thing we are? And then obviously that's already been adopted by the board, so we just need to pin down what date that was and insert that. Is what my understanding is. If you could just clarify that.
So master plans are also referred to, in other communities or in general as comprehensive plans. The state have talked about it in a master plan, so we can remove the language of the land use, leave the township master plan for clarity. And then, the chair mentioned, we will, once the draft is finalized, we'll confirm for you the, effective date of the master plan, when that's fully adopted, into effect. That in here, so that was just a carryover placement, we noted on it.
All right, does that address that concern that you had with that in particular?
As far as the language just stating, text and map. Can we get clarification that we're addressing the future land use map, not the current zone map?
This is your section 1.08 DMV.
C and D.
Oh. Okay.
I'm not sure it's a requirement. I'm just trying to not create confusion for residents is my only issue.
But because we're also looking at reclassifying the different districts,
Mhm.
references not only your zoning ordinance text, but then it would be the updated zoning map as well.
Is that clarification square there with your question on that?
So updated zoning map and future land use map? Just the zoning map. Perfect. Thank you. It does answer. Yes, thank you.
And we do not need to make any change there,
So we're not adding the word zoning?
or we.
I would prefer to work, can we add the word zoning map?
Does anybody else have anything in Article 1 that they noticed? Okay. Moving on to Article 2, flip your page over there, gonna be page 5. So Kyle, I did notice we still have the hyperlinks underlined there. We'll touch on it again, but it's also in section, Article 5 as well. We just need to take the hyperlink portion of it out. The wordage obviously is appropriate. Safety, you had on here, page 5, section 201, identify the future land use map.
It's already been corrected.
That's already been corrected. Okay. All right. There.
I'm not sure A, B, and C.
You've got on there distinguished from current zoning status. And section D.
Not sure what I was thinking of that.
Okay, all right, we can come back to it.
Okay,
Okay, any other comments that anybody has noted on Article 2?
No.
All right. So Article 3, there were quite a few things in the permitted use table that just didn't carry over correctly when they put the final document together, because obviously all the standalones are now in this document. I'm gonna just touch on those. This is more of a clerical situation rather than whether or not we want something to be permitted or special use. But if anybody has a question on that, and while we're doing that, feel free to interject and interrupt me, okay? All right, and this is just in regards to the table of permitted uses. Okay? So the first one that we have a problem with is the battery energy storage system. That's just supposed to be special use in RRAOS and industrial. Then the issue of domestic livestock, go down to domestic livestock. We have that permitted in RRAOS, but not in any others. Based on the definition of domestic livestock, is that something we need to permit across all zoning classifications, or are they referring to the urban livestock ordinance itself? Okay. Right.
So it is urban livestock.
So Kyle, do you have any thoughts on how to address that per se? Because obviously urban livestock is allowed in, some of the other districts other than RRAOS, but with limitations of, so many head per, depending on what lot size you are.
You can put it as a permitted use in the neighborhood residential or like. That's up to you guys, how you like to do it, and then put a footnote in there as well, for the standards.
Okay.
Which wouldn't be a special use if we have additional standards. It's also going to be in our form, we did civic use standards.
Yep.
So it might be, as a permitted use in the neighborhood residential, but then we'll report over additional things.
Okay. Yeah, the other thing I was thinking of, like, we have it on there as a permitted use, so that gives the public the idea, well, it's a permitted use, I don't have any actual standards I need to, but obviously that is, you have to get a permit and everything from the, so I don't know, we don't want to put special use on there, obviously.
The special land use then would to a higher standard of scrutiny under the public planning commission.
Right.
In that regard, so permitted use means we're still requiring, like in the commercial industrial district, still require site plan review and the criteria. It just means that they don't need that higher level of scrutiny that would apply to a special.
Does anybody have any comments on that? I mean, because we're specifically talking about basically urban livestock, even though it's, domestic livestock is what the name is there.
So to clarify for everyone, we're not changing the urban livestock language, we're just adding it in the neighborhood residential as permitted, correct?
Correct.
You can add domestic livestock under the neighborhood residential.
Yes.
Yes, I think so. And then obviously if we can attach that footer to see the, or, have some way to direct folk to that ordinance that's in here.
Yeah, if the commission is acceptable, you can look at putting that. No right below section 3.01, table of great uses, where we talk about permitted by right, permitted by special use permit, it was just blank. And then put it in there and say, no, please see Article 4, when it's, with the standard, then apply.
I think that is a good idea.
Before we get too far,
Mhm.
I see boarding tunnels, commercial price. It just says boarding tunnels, commercial.
There's boarding in there.
Reading.
Oh, never mind. It's like, yeah.
You're good.
And then bear with me, like, for the amount of livestock, like it's to read domestic, and then parentheses urban. Like, would that beneficial?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so, because that's what everybody in the township is gonna know it as, is the
Right.
urban livestock.
And then are we permitting a cemetery in manufactured home section?
So,
Where are you getting that?
So-
Page 8.
so I did see, and Claudia. had
Oh,
brought
I have,
this.
yeah, I have a question on the cemetery and
Different cultivation.
So,
it goes all the way across. And I mean, I don't think we would put a cemetery where just like proper.
Oh, true. Workshop cultivation.
And
so Kyle, just for clarification purposes, the issue is we have special use for cemetery in all zoning districts. The question is, do we need to only, I mean, relegate that to a district or two? Or, it is a special land use, so it'll have to come before the commission, you'd have to meet the standards, and obviously, if they don't meet the standards, then they would not, or what would be your recommendation on that? Like
In my professional career, I have not dealt with an application for someone.
Okay.
In the 9+ years I went. With that regard, most cemeteries that you encounter within communities are ranked by municipality, some form or another, or are located adjacent to like religious institutions.
Right.
Have been in existence for decades. So I would also put it back on the planning commission to defer to you. How would you like to handle that? Should you receive, an application for a cemetery in the future? You want it, Mr. I don't want to sound callous, but
I know, right?
there needs to be potentially some considerations with replacement of the intern in the ground with environmental impacts.
Sure.
So
But if you go to page 25. It says no portion of any cemetery that is located in a wetland or 100 feet of a flood boundary shall be developed by it. So that would kind of say, we don't do that, we don't put it there, we just. I don't want to reinvent the wheel here, guys, I'm just asking.
Let's go ahead and take it off of the lakefront residential and just keep it as special use everywhere else.
Yeah. Okay,
Do you need it in industrial? I don't think it would fit the criteria for industrial. That's just my personal opinion.
Well,
I mean,
We do have.
so Bedford has a cemetery in the industrial district.
But, yeah. But I don't believe that there's any other development there.
There is not any other development there, obviously, so,
I mean, yeah, let's just keep it in.
I would say we're
Unfortunately,
probably
as it
never,
goes.
correct, yes,
Yeah.
we're probably never gonna get this, and it's a special use, they'd have to meet the criteria, adjacent
Yeah.
land use, yada, yada, yada.
yeah,
We'll take it out of the lakefront residential,
That's a tricky one.
it is. Okay, moving down to marijuana retailer over on page 9. We've got that as a permitted use in the mixed use district. I believe that's gonna need to be changed to special use in the mixed use. And also, do we want to encompass enterprise and industrial in the marijuana retailer? So right now,
And what statute's going to do.
right. So obviously, we're actually waiting for a review on the marijuana ordinance, with some new statutes that are coming down and whatnot. I honestly think that we're gonna wind up having to allow it in enterprise and industrial as a special use. So I think we should just make that change to that right now.
I agree.
Especially use,
Yeah.
for all three.
Yes, correct. We can discuss that a little bit more once we get to get to marijuana. Mineral extraction, yeah, go ahead, sorry. Say again.
The grower is supposed to be only an RRA less, right?
So we allow,
For grow.
yeah, we allow the indoor and mixed use, enterprise and industrial. So that is notated, correctly there. Moving down to the mineral extraction. We've got to add special use in industrial. We just need to add special use to, the RRAOS district. And then moving down to two below that, we have a kennel rescue foster personal. That is a special use in the enterprise. I would think that that would also be special use in the RRAOS as well. And I guess Kyle, if there's clarification there, so I assume that that just didn't carry over.
It may not have carried
Okay.
short our.
And then going down to, sexually oriented businesses. We just need that change to special use in industrial only, is where the commission came down on that.
So we're moving from mixed use.
Yes, remove it from mixed use and enterprise, correct, Tony?
Yeah.
Okay. And then dropping down, to solar energy systems, utility scale, we have that listed as special use in industrial, also needs to be listed as special use in RRAOS.
And just those two, correct?
Correct, yeah, it just didn't, I assume it just didn't carry over, so. Are there any other comments on the table itself? Again, those were all clerical errors, and to help McKenna out, we're gonna provide them with the list, but we just need to discuss it briefly. Anything else on the table?
No.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, going over to pay, I'm sorry, I need to consult. Stacy, do you want me to back up and,
I just have clarification on language in item A, right under the table. Use not listed above is similar in character and intensity to the use permitted in a given district and therefore permit that use. Should we add in the word review? Cause it reads to me like an automatic permittable.
So, Mr. Chair, we did, one of my colleagues did review an opinion recently from, Seth's office, different community, very special land use.
Mhm.
That may impact this, so let me confirm with him on that. In brief breath that we may have to remove the, other uses similar to for special land uses, because if they're similar to like, so let me confirm with him, we would remove that like we said. And that would be informed, perfect, that's.
okay, yep. All right, so we will wait to hear what both the planners and the attorney's office have to say on that. But I agree that is. You can read that two different ways, so I would agree that we probably should do something there, so let's wait to hear back on that. Just jumping back up on your list, trustee Greenwood. You had page 6, 2.03.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Oh,
Well, this is in regards to the shoreline.
just adding, following the shoreline of a body of water. That was just a grammatical error.
Do you want to add the word of in front of
Yes.
or after shoreline?
I have to remember what I was thinking. How did it do? The zoning board of appeals shall interpret the exact location of zoning district boundaries. I've just never seen that in our ordinance before, so I need a clarification on it.
So there are areas in communities that may have zoning that parcel that are split zone.
Okay.
And then when you look at a map, it looks like it's arbitrarily potentially drawn. So this would give the ability to the zoning board of appeals to determine where that boundary is,
Okay,
for the split zone.
for split zone?
Mhm.
Okay.
So now we have it currently, but we're not gonna have it moving forward. So is that necessary to have in there?
We confirm that that's.
Okay.
Needed. Should you ever have a split zone property in the future, then at least this would still be.
Be in there, okay.
May not be applicable today, but.
But the potential exists, okay. Stacy, does that,
Yes, they answer. And then zoning map already took care of that question. So G is a non-issue. So I'm good on that section.
all right. You've got on there page 7, 2.05.
Was criminal streamlining battling for all radical. I think that was one that I intended to remove.
Okay. All right, we're good there.
Yep, we're good there.
Perfect. Oh, right. So I just had, moving on to page. Trustee Greenwood has, page 10A, add review to permit 4.
Yep, that's the one that we just discussed, that Seth is going to.
We'll take care of it, got it. I'll do a better job of cross-referencing as we go here.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry, my
Yeah.
notes are off.
Oh, no, that's all right. Next one is gonna be page 11C. It looks like you need some clarification on that. Lot depth and, portions, lot depths of newly created lots shall be no greater than 4 times the lot width.
It was just clarification on if that was what the planning commission wished for, and if that's the standard.
That is under the Land Division Act.
Land Division Act, perfect, okay. Thank you.
So no change there. Moving down that same page, G, homestead lot splits in the RRAOS zoning district lot splits, creating lots as small as 2 acres shall be approved under the following circumstances. And then if you go down to number 2, G2, all newly created homestead lots shall be at least 1 acre in area and 100 feet in width. So our minimum is 2 acres, but it references any newly created homestead lot shall be 1 acre and 100 feet in width. And I was just looking for clarification on, is that also something that is kind of regulated by the zoning enabling act, or is that just,
No, we'll change that.
okay,
That covers my point as well, Chairman.
yeah. So I would assume it would say all newly created homestead lots shall be at least 2 acres, and then whatever our minimum width is, I think it's 200 feet in the table. Whatever that is.
Yep.
Okay,
It's 200 feet, then.
I believe it's 200, yeah. Okay. Like page 12 in the established zoning district.
So, setbacks shall be measured along the ground from the property line to the nearest load-bearing foundation of the principal building. Unenclosed porches, and decks shall be exempt from setback requirements. Should that say in all zoning districts? Was that the intent? I'm looking at page 12, the very
Yeah, so
last
page
one.
12.3, it's referencing how we're gonna measure setbacks. Now, obviously, we talked at great length about how we were gonna measure setbacks for marijuana, and that is different than what this is. So I guess our question for Kyle is, does that need to be uniform across the board in all, in any of the, special or permitted uses where there's additional standards? And then obviously in our process and procedures section, do all three of those things need to be the same? Or is it all right if you measure, in a marijuana instance, you measure from property line to property line as opposed to,
Marijuana can be different regulations.
okay,
This would be for like a new home as well. We measure it from the spirit law.
yep,
Some communities permit or code ordinances permit you to have uncovered deck porches and patios and encroach into required front or rear, setback requirements. Because it's not covered structure, so they allow for those that may have smaller lots, or homes that are built closer to the road, but they still have a porch or patio on the front or rear yard. So in this regard, the language is drafted to say those unenclosed, open to the air, porches and decks are exempt from the settlement requirement. However, reading through this, and I appreciate the insight on this, we would recommend removing that way that you're not having deck right over.
Mm-hmm.
I would most likely then just strike the enclosed porches shall be.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, remove that whole sentence because.
Repeat, right, which they present.
yes. So we are gonna strike, on page 12, number 3, the unenclosed porches and decks shall be exempt from the setback requirement. All right, anything further on that? Trustee Greenwood? No, that takes care of that.
Hear them?
Okay. Looks like so we're gonna be into Article 4 here. Anything else on Article 3 before we turn the page and move on? From anybody else? All set?
How's that?
Okay, perfect. All right. Looks like page 13, it's gonna be 4.02. The concern here, is no accessory use building acceptable for activities. Stacy, did you want to ask your question for clarification purposes on that, or?
So adult daycare home, I know from experience, getting outside of the primary residence in a contained area and being able to do something much like, if you send your kid to a daycare facility, they have accessory buildings for different play areas. My question is, why would we restrict accessory use for an adult daycare home?
I believe our intent with writing this is to limit the actual activities of the daycare facility to the principal dwelling.
Okay,
Play structures are typically not regulated. They're going to be, some even exempt them from setback requirements to an extent.
okay,
So I would interpret this potentially as, any activity directly related to the daycare facility principal. Now we can remove that, it would be, but however, do you want protection in there that prohibits someone from using a detached garage for the daycare? So, granted, this is talking about adult daycare, so it's different. That's also regulated by the state, so we can check state requirements as well. I believe our intent on this was to avoid having a pole barn or something to utilize
For a daycare.
right, okay.
And I mean, I would say we would leave that in as is. And,
I'm okay, the way, with that explanation,
Okay.
great,
all
yes,
right, so no change there.
no change.
Flip over one page to 15. Like, you've got on there 7 and 8, so I assume we are talking about. You're talking about ag tourism,
Yeah,
okay,
so overnight accommodations related to agritourism operations shall comply with the regulations for bed and breakfast establishments in the ordinance, and then exclusions, we have bed and breakfast establishment.
Oh, let's do that. You know,
all right, so what is your recommended change there? Or Kyle, I guess, what is your recommended change there?
You can remove. Yeah, off of the improvement.
Okay.
First for reference, but.
Okay.
Recommend them. Here,
Yep. All right, so we're gonna remove F on number 8, exclusions. Next one is gonna be page 19, with like D. Documentation provided by enforcement agent and presented to the board. What is what is the question there, Stacey? So is your issue that it says planning commission there and not the board?
That's just verifying the chain of documentation moving up to the township board.
Right, by.
Yeah.
We need to figure that, but it doesn't mean contradictory that everything, you shall be completed with a 12-month termination by the township board. This is no longer going to be changed unless the current public party provides decision on the planning commission.
Right,
So,
but and also it would be, the enforcement agent would be involved in that process, right? So we have 3 different entities
So,
within one pair.
yep, we're gonna have a list of stuff for the attorney's office to go through, and this was provided by the attorney's office, the battery storage.
Okay.
So
Yep.
that is, a question that,
Prevents battery storage.
yeah, no problem. That is a question that we will get clarification on from Seth, and then I would assume that one of those 2 things will stay in there. It'll probably be the township board, and the planning commission will be the thing that is taken out. But we will get clarification from him on that. Our next one is 21, 4.08. It's like A.
Clarification on the difference between the day spa and spa. Is it just within the hours of operation or?
place, do you have a weekend long retreat at a spa, abilities, if you're in there for a few hours, well, we can. Provide the spa.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the definition there is to, be inclusive under to make sure that we consider that under barber shop, a beauty shop, at the spa and day spa, if you would like the day
Spa.
the spa, okay. The next thing. Looks like a couple of things here, and it's gonna be in section 4.10. So, we should take a look at the setback for the boarding kennel. And I guess I just wanna make sure that everybody's okay with that, so that's gonna be 4.10 D setbacks, number 1. Minimum setback of a fully enclosed kennel building shall be 50 feet from the property line and 100 feet from any residential structure on another parcel. Is everyone okay with that setback?
I'm not okay with that when you're considering 30 dogs.
Okay,
I actually had a problem with it as well.
So I think factoring in the number of animals and that they're not just gonna be contained within a structure, they are going to go outside. I think the setback should be larger, the number of animals should be reduced. How do you feel about that, Cody?
Yeah, I grew up next to one with red dogs, and we were like 350 feet away, and it was very, very loud.
Okay.
Once they all get going, all get up going, or
Is it possible to, instead of setting a number of animals, you do it based on the square footage? So that they have like a proper amount of space to actually run around?
Yes, that's a good
People will,
idea.
you know, cram 30 dogs
That's
into
for
the
sure.
building.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the neighbor, Jordan, raised and boarded, hound dog. Well, over on Bynum Drive.
Wow.
And I'm across the street from it. I could sometimes hear it.
oh, you're, I think they're like racers, you just see from the left. You
You-
down
Yeah.
the area.
do you,
Yeah.
I'll go run, but they don't clear back, I'll go run.
Well, there's a couple of townships that do like indoor. So it's like your indoor was, I think it was one dog. So I think they're like 10 feet, but that doesn't sound right now, because you just said 100.
Kyle, in your experience with the other township, do they just put the maximum on there? And then obviously, so in the keeping of animals, we have, I believe, you know, in the language in there, you know, you have to, you know, have, you know, get the poo out, you know, I mean, be, you know, humane to the animals, you know,
Right, yeah.
as far as that goes.
A lot of our references will not only have your own standards, but how you would, the community would like to
Okay.
operate within, connect with, and the two local county. So we can reference that and then bring that back for your first year side.
Okay, is that all right with everybody? So let's try and tell them what we'd like the setback to be though. But there's no need to bring that back and have us take a look at that again. I agree, 100 feet is very, very close, especially, I mean, for 5 dogs, I would say, as far as that goes. You know, this is obviously a commercial operation. This is not, you know, Joe Schmo that has five pets.
Well,
So,
it says for an enclosed kennel building, so I assume where they're gonna be sleeping, not running around barking. Because number 2 is more of the outdoor run.
Yeah, it's
Which
not
has a larger-
like a pet daycare, but still they are gonna be going outside.
Yeah,
But it's even loud inside the shelter.
yeah.
right, but we have, they address that over on the next page in E, sound control. All animals can be contained within a building that is soundproof using insulation, soundboards, acoustic tile, so on and so forth. The planning commission may modify this requirement based on location and other site specific considerations. So now that I've just read that last sentence there, planning may modify requested efforts. They're only talking about sound. So I mean, I suppose if we're gonna adjust the setback, we need to do that.
Like your building's soundproof outside of your, or on an exterior items. So we're doing very.
Yep.
Soundproof building.
So I mean, at that point, that's more than,
Exactly.
right? Cause this is for a fully, so we go back, so flip back over, the minimum setback for a fully enclosed kennel building.
Mhm.
So then you go over to the sound standards and we,
Forward too.
right,
Then when you may want to, discuss further, number 2 is for outdoor adults. That we are going to be line.
right, okay. So I don't think we need to adjust from 50 feet and 100 feet on the fully enclosed portion of this, because we addressed that with the sound provision. Number 2, though, the minimum setback for outdoor runs. where, you know, the animals show, it's 150 feet from the property line and 200 feet from any residential structure on another parcel. So if they don't have a residential use next to them, it's 150 feet. If they do, it's 200 feet. Is everybody okay with, I mean,
I did see a couple of townships that required a minimum of 5 acres for something like this. I don't know if that would maybe help. I'm assuming they're gonna plop it right down the middle of the property.
I don't think we can necessarily attach, you know, because it's a fully enclosed building that you can do in, you know, you can build those in any zoning district. So I mean, I don't see, and I would think also traditionally, you know, boarding kennel, you know, could be potentially located in the enterprise zone or the industrial district, you know, off of, you know, Michigan Avenue or something like that. Where, you know, clients come, they drop off their dogs and things like that. So I mean, making a 5 acre standard there does not seem like that's in the best interest.
Right.
Our uses do have provisions that require, like an outdoor run, that needs to be located in that rear yard only. So you don't walk in the front yard, that's strict right now. And you just put it in the front yard. There's a larger. Look at.
The other thing to consider here is that this is gonna be a special use. So it's gonna come before the planning commission where we can attach reasonable conditions due to the adjacent uses, you know. We don't want you to affect the adjacent use of someone else's property. So we'll require sound fence, you know, so on and so forth. I think, at 200 feet, I mean, I think the only thing that we would change there is maybe add, you know, in the rear yard only. But again, I think that because it's a special use, we can always attach a reasonable condition.
Okay. That's fair.
So I'm okay with 200 and 150 feet on the setback,
Okay,
given that.
right.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 3 on that one. Is the hours that the dogs can be outdoors.
Yeah,
Shall not be.
so they shall not be.
Right. I'm just saying that they don't have any access to go to the bathroom, like outdoors, between 6 p.m. and 8 a.m.
So I read that as animals should not be kept in the outdoor runs, like, you know, I put them out, yeah, correct. Yeah, you put them outside and then you know.
I'm reading that like.
Forget
they
about
don't
it.
need to go to the bathroom.
Right,
You can't just leave them out there. I
That-
think that's what it's.
that is, yeah, I don't read it that way.
Okay.
Anything else on that?
No, sir.
Next here, looks like a little bit of redundancy there. We're gonna slide over to page 24, section 4.12, the campground. And again, we're kind of having to spend a little bit of time, guys, on this, just because this is not in the last draft. This is stuff that we've asked them to put in and combine, so we'll just touch on it quickly. Both trustee Greenwood and I, go down to the, 4.12, number 3, required setbacks, 15 feet from the road right away. And then it's 10 feet, side and rear. I don't think either of those are big, in my personal opinion. Kyle, is that just kind of, we put those in there because we asked for some language, and then obviously we are gonna go ahead and.
So the campground may have like an internal road, right?
Mhm.
So it might be a private road, so we may want to, list as well, team from the internal roadway,
Okay,
right away, not make it we a public road and not to
Right,
drive.
right.
So look at changing that to read 15 feet from the road. That would be the internal drive system. 15 feet back.
Is that the setback?
And before the cabin, the campground, developed. So,
So 15 feet from the internal,
from the road edge.
Yeah.
That's how you're gonna call that, whether that's the public road right away or the internal road that, you're driving into the campground.
but if you're 15 feet from the actual road, that'd be M37. Well, especially when you get dogs. you
Okay,
get
right.
kids.
So do we wanna increase that?
I would say, yeah.
Yeah.
Keeping in mind though that, we're referring, so you're referencing like a major road
Right.
right away.
We're talking.
We're
about
talking about the internal road, so you're in the campground, there's not that you don't need,
Right,
Okay.
inside. the
You know,
camp.
So are we gonna say internal road edge? Is that
Internal
what-
drive, yeah, like he said,
Okay.
drive
Sure, would
system,
you-
the internal
Yeah.
drive system.
Would you like us to modify this, if they required setbacks as measured in internal road networks?
yes,
Yes,
Yeah,
much better, much better.
because that way, you can't, we don't
Right.
we don't wanna have the campsite so far away from their internal road, obviously, that,
Right, makes sense.
Stacy, does that kind of clarify that setback issue?
Yes, 7.
Okay. Also, we had a question on maximum number of occupants is 8 per site with no establishment number of actual sites. So I view those as two different things, obviously. Establishment of site, like, correct me if I'm wrong here, Kyle, but I mean, we can't, make them establish a certain amount of sites. It's just the only number of
I
people.
would, if we were to get an application and we're going to do it for a campground development, right above that, it talks about required setbacks or these cabins or structures. We then dictated on setback requirements for them. So then they'll actually space out the amount of sites that can be utilized based on the required setbacks.
Okay.
So the setbacks kind of help drive the actual density or the amount of lots.
Does that clarify that? Or-
Yes,
you-
and then is it standard for 90 consecutive days?
Actually,
One,
number one is way off.
I mean, that's 90 days of camping and I don't know, I've never camped for 3 months in the same site.
Oh,
It's like
it's called-
squatting to me.
Called seasonal.
Seasonal is,
So I think our intent there was most likely for you might see the campgrounds that allow like recreational vehicle hookups.
okay,
You bring your, fifth wheel or your travel trailer, you have a site, you put it there, Memorial Day to Labor Day, it's established, you connect it to power, and then you come and go in, please, we can.
Right.
But we have the
So
dates
that's-
here, June 1st, Memorial Day, last
Yeah,
Monday in
they-
May. So, but most campgrounds open at least first of May.
So you wanna change it to
Do they?
May?
Oh,
Yeah, they do.
Some in the middle of April.
So we go to May?
So I think the 90 consecutive is probably all right. I know that I don't know what Turkeyville is up there.
I know it
Marshall
reminds me of
Township.
Sandy Pines, like Sandy Pines, if you guys are familiar with that.
Yeah.
Is like a very large campground where people stay in summer homes.
Mm.
So that's what I'm thinking of.
Okay.
It just making sure, clarifying that that's the intent that you guys were looking
If a
for.
person goes there, they buy a seasonal pass. Quite 99% of the time they leave that RV there all winter. They winterize it because they put decks on it. And that's their
Oh,
property. Not their property, but they rent it for that. So as far as 90 days,
do you think
that's gonna
that,
blow it out of the water. Nobody's gonna do it.
All right, so do we need to address?
I'd scrap the 90 consecutive days. Campground's gonna make their
And
own
would you like to
rules.
just remove it in general? I mean,
Yeah.
I guess, what are you looking to protect or figure, right? Campground is supposed to be seasonal, right, in that regard. It's not intended to be a secondary home.
right.
So with the provision, it would help, act as a rotational campground instead of just that I have a second home in this campsite. I leave my trailer there year after year. It's now become a manufactured housing. So I guess I asked the planning commission, what is your vision for a campground? Do you want it to be that seasonal in nature or do you want it to be more long-term We can modify it to say that there is no time restriction, you know, from May first to September thirtieth, there's no time limit. After, you know, October first to April thirtieth, no more than however many days. I would refer to you on how you envision a campground in the community.
So I definitely, so I think we need to protect ourselves from having people camp, you know, treat that as a second residence. I agree that the 90 days definitely, you know, because I know several people that do Turkeyville and they're there for like the summer season. So Kevin is the happy medium there that, you know, occupancy can be from, you know, May 1st to October 1st. Or do you know, October 31st or,
Most of the campgrounds I know, November first is their,
okay,
is their cutoff
Okay.
because they
So
celebrate Halloween there.
okay, all right, so yeah. I mean, so what would you like that cutoff to be? Are we talking?
Beginning or end?
The end, so November 1st will
At
be.
least November first. If you're gonna have to, if they're gonna, are they gonna have to move?
Yeah, they would have, yeah, you can't have
Okay.
occupancy, obviously, that.
Because they set it all up with. They set it all up with sewer. They set it up with power. They set it up with water.
Right,
They stay there that whole time.
yes,
So then you're saying that they're gonna have to pull their RV off even though they pay them to winter.
right.
They just, I guess.
They can't live there. I mean, maybe we put something in there where that can say that they can't stay there. They winterize it in the States.
Let's
Mhm.
do May 1st to November 1st.
Yeah.
So we'll strike the 90 consecutive days. And it will just, you read, you know, occupancy, May 1st to November 1st. Kevin, is that
That would be much better than what this said.
okay?
I would assume that if somebody wanted to open a campground and they wanted to have special uses on it, that they would come to the board and apply for such thing.
Yes, that is listed as a special use.
90 days, they're just getting started.
Sure. Okay, all right, so that takes care of that. The only other thing I wanted to touch down was number 10, minimum lot size of a campground, 25 acres.
Is it fair if I'm, back up?
Yep, sorry.
We used it in other provisions as well, with the commissioner, comfortable if we say site may be occupied between May first and November first, unless an alternative timeline is approved by the planning commission.
Yes.
That would work.
Or work for. The minimum lot size for the campground, 25 acres. That is not a number that we've discussed. That was just put in with the language. So comments, questions, or concerns on that number?
I can't imagine a campground. Oh,
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, so my hang up is not specifying, all right, so you can have per site, how many sites within acreage.
Based on their sizes, you know, we're talking.
Then, and
Yeah.
you could be talking about permanent structures because it addresses cabins as
or
well,
10.
right?
If I make an opinion, I know, or, and this is just me, or customer would permit our recreational vehicles, correct, and tent camping.
Uh-huh.
So I think our intent with the 8 persons is more geared towards like tent, you only have an occupancy of 8 people if you're tent camping there.
If you're
But You're not gonna
camping.
get 8 trailers on a single site, because then you're not gonna meet that, you know, separation requirement. So the 8 is more geared towards tent camp, so.
Well, and I think the other issue that the commission is having here is, so we're setting what a minimum size is gonna be, but we're not saying how many sites specifically you can have on that
That's the issue I'm
25,
having.
is the issue that you're having. So,
With just tents, I would be okay with smaller, just because you don't. It's just tents, but, when you're adding RVs and stuff, I think it needs to be larger.
Again, we discussed, I mean. Previously, if Cody were to get an application for a campground, minimum is 25 acres. If someone came in, you know, with exceptional design, interview and say, okay, you're proposing large sites, they're gonna have, enough room that if they put a recreational vehicle on each site, they gotta be 10 feet away from where our distances are. And so that will dictate on the site. So it allows flexibility in site design by
Okay,
not putting a cap on there.
okay,
However, if you feel that a cap is warranted, put it into, but you're gonna be limited by site design because of having to put through the roads
Right.
and your minimum acreage size and the provisions for differences from other cabins or RV or things like that
Mhm.
as well. Most likely if you can't run the permitting an RV and you're gonna have a pavement or some kind of permanent slab as well, the parking. So that will also dictate how partly the site will be.
Let's raise the minimum lot size to 40. That will mimic what the mineral extraction is. Because the minimum on that is 40.
acres?
40
Yep.
acres?
I mean, thoughts, comments, questions? I think we're all in agreement, 25 we thought was too small. 40 is the next number I have in my head that we have that is bigger. And I mean, obviously the two uses are not the same, but I mean,
Sure.
Right.
and that will significantly, unless people buy multiple parcels and combine them based on that parcel study that Cody did for us recently. You're really focusing that into the larger parcel areas, which is what we want.
Right.
So let's change that to 40.
Okay,
Okay.
I agree.
Could I get a clarification?
Yeah,
on Point
sure.
4.
Mm.
I know that the intent here, I believe the intent here is how many structures. The way it's
Tents, not
rated there, you
persons.
can't even have your whole family there for a party.
Mm.
Occupy it at the same time, in other words.
All right, so the maximum number of persons allowed to occupy the site shall be 8.
I mean, if they walk on the site, they're occupied.
But I think we just discussed that, that means we're actually talking about the tents, not the people.
I know, but the way it's, could be read either way.
What if we changed it from persons to tents? The maximum number of tents allowed to occupy a site shall be limited to 8.
Why are we just talking about tents? So,
Yeah.
because there's other recreational vehicles, I mean,
Well,
things
right.
other than tents.
Most of the campsites aren't big enough to put more than 2 recreational vehicles there.
So, but when we're talking about occupancy though, we're talking about you're staying overnight.
Mhm.
You're there, you've got your setup and this, that, and the other. I don't think it is the spirit of that provision to say you can't have
For family of
a
nine.
family of 9 come.
Or the
Right.
next door neighbors come over.
Right.
and Have
Like-
barbecue.
Like, I think we're just talking. I think I personally think that's getting a little too specific. If you would like to,
I
Why do we?
just didn't want to come back and bite everybody in the hiney.
I don't,
Special use.
Yeah.
I don't think you can be crowd anyway. You're not gonna overcrowd in an RV. You're gonna building standards if it's a cabin. To
Every,
me, it feels like a non-issue.
To make your own list.
every campground I've ever been to, they limit how many people can actually stay there. How many tents you can put on there. Usually it's 2 at the most. And that's on a very large site.
And that's just for tent.
And that usually has to be members of the family.
again, I think that is something because of special use that the commission can take a look at as needed on a need be basis.
Right.
Um,
Like,
Kevin, would you like the provision to add in there, like, max number of persons allowed to occupy a site for the 8 unless deemed bigger, unless, modified by planning commission?
Do we even need,
Yeah.
can we take it out? Is it gonna hurt us if we take it out?
Needs to go.
either that or set the guidelines by the campground, because
And they will.
the campground
Well, yeah.
isn't so large, but sites, each site, this room is one site.
Yeah.
You put
I mean,
10,
it
put
uses
8
small.
on there.
It's special use, so you can still put reasonable conditions on there
Oh, yeah,
if an
yeah,
applicant comes.
right.
I think we need to err on the side of caution and have it in there. Again, it's gonna come before us. So we can, I
Leave it
mean,
there.
if anything, I would think that I would be in favor of adding that language.
Or at least overnight.
From the planning commission has the ability to amend that. You know, based on the type of campground, are you gonna have tents, are you gonna have RV, so on and so forth.
Trailers.
So
all
let's
kinds of
add that provision in there, Kyle, and then I think we're okay on that.
I think the multiple uses just make it confusing for everyone.
Correct. Yeah. Anything else on that,
Probably,
guys?
because I think probably our intent with this too, as well, is to avoid any, if there's a large concrete venue, someone's doing a concrete, the concrete, the campground nearby, to avoid cramming in tenant.
Sure.
Onto the.
Yep.
Well, that's probably few and far between, but this at least gives you protection, so that would help negate what we're gonna issue. But again, I think we're planning or thinking of the worst or what ifs, and then, even more the spirit of our intent is.
Okay, moving down the line here, page 25, 4.13, trustee Greenwood has some concerns that, it references cemetery master plan, and she has pointed out that we do not have one.
So, yeah,
So
we
we
can
should
just strike that
strike that out of there.
in accordance with the master plan.
And I'm sorry, Kyle, that was B2.
What's in accordance with the cemetery master plan?
We don't have a specific cemetery master plan. We have spoken about adopting one, but it has not yet been adopted.
Moving down just to 4.14, the child care center, non-home base. We don't have any additional standards there. I just had a question for Kyle. Do we need something like, hours of operation or anything like that there, or?
This is listed, let's go back. That's what you turn.
Yeah,
Then you could, really ridiculous
on that, at that time. Okay, all right. So I've got a couple of those on down the line, guys, where we don't have any additional standards there, but the use is special use. So that is a situation where we attach reasonable conditions. As a planning commission, we do our job. So that will take care of a lot of those.
Perfect.
If anybody else has noticed similar things like that. Thank you for that clarification.
So we can, yeah.
So trustee Greenwood noticed that one as well, so your question on that is different, but it's, no additional standards for them, like fencing, drop off, hours, et cetera, but that just answers that question.
Yeah.
And some of that is regulated by.
Next one here. Just need clarification, Kyle, page 25, 4.16 D1, 200 feet of frontage for a drive-through. I believe the concern is that is, yeah, a little bit too high, just in the sense that we are in the, mixed use and things like that. It's a little bit smaller. So,
You can reduce that. Some sites, they're having a larger frontage or, higher intensity, that's gonna change. If it's layer something where they have a lot of stacking into second spaces, having a larger will just provide them more on-site stacking buildings on the road. Yeah, so however that's good, like to reduce that, that's fine.
thoughts, trustee Greenwood?
I mean, I would like it reduced. I feel like it's restrictive.
I would agree. What?
I don't know what the average, setback would be. Roadside setback, frontage, say for example, down in Urbandale. What you think that would be? I have no concept of how many points.
It could be regulated through the district itself. I mean, if they parcel boundary, it has to be a certain square footage. With that, the different if you permit it, you could keep that.
Okay.
So for instance here, just going over to the table right quick in 3.02, we mixed use minimum lot dimensions, width in feet is gonna be 60. Yep. So I would agree with Kyle. I would just change that to the district itself will decide whatever the minimum width is for frontage on the lot is how we should dictate
So
that.
just put it's determined by.
By the district, yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm not spitting that out very clearly.
Unless you want to remove it entirely, then that way. One less provision you have to worry about. Because it would be that the language is permitted.
I have no dog in the fight.
I'd like to leave it in, but change it to the district language, please.
The thing else to add to that is most of your chain stores are going to have their own regulations on what it is in a lot of parts.
A lot.
Right.
Of
A
frontage.
lot.
All right, and then the next thing, that I'd like to touch on is over on the next side, 4.17 dwelling units, 2A. Maximum density, multiple family housing development shall not exceed 10 units per gross acre of land. So we discussed that, and I thought we agreed that we were gonna lower that down to 4, Kyle?
For multiple family,
Correct.
you want 4 units per acre?
Correct, unless, so I remember us discussing that and you making a case in the argument for why that needed to be higher. But I remember that,
Multifamily are primarily 5 for average.
correct,
If you reduce it down to 4 units per acre, now you're requiring, not really becoming a single family lot.
okay,
So when you're not gonna get density, you're not gonna get development, and you are more multifamily, because now, if you wanted to put 40 units, they need 10.
got it.
We have typically, being like 2 or 3 stories high. In fact,
Okay.
10 is a pretty standard.
Is it?
10 to 16 for multifamily, what we would see, in that regard. And again, the site's gonna dictate some of that as well for the setbacks and provisions along that. Sure.
Okay,
So,
so just to clarify, when we're talking about this, we're really talking about building up.
yes.
When we're talking about units. Okay. Tony, I know that this, yeah, so I know that this was kind of
Yeah.
something that we kind of went back and forth on. Now that we've had that clarified again, are you,
This is the senior housing in townhouse.
right, so are you okay with the higher?
Yeah, I can,
Okay, all right. So we will leave that the same. I just needed the clarification on, because I thought we talked about something different and it sounds like we
too, but I
did.
don't think it was that.
Okay, I could have
Must been
sworn,
Something different.
I could have
Okay.
sworn it was that, but thank you for the clarification. We'll move on. Looks like next thing on Krusty Greenwood's list. On the list, I'll stop saying that. Page 27, 3B.
They
That's
don't
gonna,
need to-
oh, sorry.
There's one, I have my pages completely off, but it was manufactured home. Oh, I think it's on B. A lot containing more than 2 manufactured homes. Oh, no, I'm sorry, page 27. So maybe I was, okay.
Are you talking about the districts that are listed?
Yeah. it was
Alright.
really important.
Yep. So Kyle, there on B and C, it references the R district. That just needs to be changed over to the correct district. And I will say, guys, Kyle and I spoke before the meeting, like after we get this buttoned up and there's no more changes, they are gonna go back through and specifically make sure that every piece of language, especially in Article 4, is referencing the correct districts. Like for instance, if you were to go to your solar right now, it still references ag. That's gonna get changed to R, AOS, and so on and so forth. Is that what you were referencing, Tony, or
Yeah.
no? Okay,
And the same thing with the C.
yep.
Weird one.
Doesn't hurt to point that out, but I do know that that's gonna be a conscientious one process. This is what we're doing today on this ordinance type deal. So back to, accessory dwelling units, 3. Looks like 3B, porches shouldn't be included in the dimensional requirement of the 600 feet.
So I'm not sure if we could address that in 5A or 3B. But my understanding, since we're talking about ADUs, they're small enough anyway. Not including the porch and the square foot, the 600 square footage, and making sure that language is in there.
So 3B, for entrance and porches and windows and other elements, we're asking that to be shown on the scale of the floor plan. So that reference here. We submit a plan to Cody for its review. We're gonna report on this, we want to show it on the license.
Yes.
And then 5,
So I don't,
Yeah. So 600 square feet of internal space, and then the porch would be non-inclusive in that determination. Does that make sense?
are you good on the clarification?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, are we good with doing that, Kyle?
yeah, I think we can amend the 600 square feet of like livable area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Living space.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. So I just wanted to real quickly, Kyle, page 28, letter E, state licensed residential facility, non-daycare. I feel like that is missing the title, as in like 4 point whatever. It's just in there, so it's
Oh, yeah.
accessory dwelling unit, or is that part of the accessory?
That's part of, well,
Okay, all right. Okay,
E,
okay, great.
large foster home.
Okay, all right, so those are the standards for an ADU that is a
Yeah.
state licensed foster home.
Not an ADU. No. So under dwelling units, we have single family, multifamily, it will break down different types of dwelling units.
Okay,
For those that, you know, a single family dwelling unit, multifamily dwelling unit, measured, single family housing dwelling unit.
okay, I got you. Okay, I see now. One, no change required. Moving on. Let's see, so page 29. 4.18B, off-street parking assembly for 15 vehicles.
so the issue that I had here was the traffic patterns, which we put Kyle, just for clarification, we could add that as a condition. This is a special use, right?
Yeah.
We could add that as a condition, the traffic flow of, the funeral home procession. So determining the traffic flow patterns, was not recognized, so I just wanna make sure that we can recognize that under, an added condition, and it wouldn't have to be in the ordinance itself.
You like it. Well, patterns internally for funeral.
To add it in for well, we have 15 vehicles for the funeral procession, but we don't have anything regarding how it impacts traffic patterns.
On public street,
What was that?
on public street,
Yes.
first station.
Right.
So we can't have two drives, like, so what I'm talking about is the number of drives and how that looks as you enter onto a public street within the parcel. Is what I'm referring to.
So I would think we would handle that during the special use process and consult the parking regulations
Or site plan review.
or, yeah.
Okay, perfect. That was just a clarification.
Okay. Moving on here, next item's gonna be on page 32. 4.25. No requirement for traffic patterns related to loading and transportation. In manufacturing. Again, I would assume that's gonna be the same clarification
That's the,
That- that
strike
we-
it,
that
yep.
we just got. Okay, Tony, did you?
Well, just because you pointed out the hyperlinks on the
Yep.
other one, the hotel, 4.23.
Thank you.
We're striking this one.
All right, next one's gonna be, I'm sorry, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Page 31B, fenced in pools for hotels, or is this standard in building code?
So I looked it up, Michigan Building Code for pools is 4 foot
All the way around.
all the way around. You already know that. My concern was whether it should be added or not, so residents know that.
So and we talked about this earlier, my understanding here, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, like, so our rules of construction specifically talk about, building code and whatnot. So there's no need in this instance, or instances that are similar to specify in the standards. Because that's, part of the rules of construction is how we would handle that, correct?
That way, if we're outside the building board, you want to go back and operate.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Is that, you copacetic there? Okay, perfect. So moving down just a couple of things, 4.26, the adult use marijuana, we need to update the zoning districts in there. Again, they're gonna go through and make all those changes for us. Same thing, with the other standalones that we referenced in there, they're gonna go through and make sure that all the zoning districts match what we have in our table. So the next thing that I see here is page 57.
We jump back to
Yes.
page 51.
Absolutely.
It's just a typo at the bottom, so you're gonna go down to E where it says site development requirements. And C says, it says 250 feet, and then it says 300 in parentheses.
Ah, yes, look at you. Catch it.
That's a good catch.
It is. It'd help if I look at my list here too, to be honest with you, but, yes. So Kyle, is that something that you can just change there? That's something that was provided by the attorney's office, obviously.
So about what, 250 feet or 300?
So it's supposed to be 250.
Yeah.
It just, that number 300 needs to be changed to 250.
Yeah, I wish it's.
Alright.
Yeah, that's true.
And moving on, before we get to 57, page 55 there, Kyle. So in the table, we've got kennel, rescue, foster, personal. We still don't have anything referenced there. Or is that because that use is so similar to, like the boarding kennel and stuff that we already have? Okay,
Otherwise, we could do, see this section, but this one, could be.
I don't necessarily I just wanted the clarification that, so it is it's the only thing that is left on the table that is not specifically referenced in here. So I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't that way for, the reason or not, so.
Item or reason that has a vehicle standard.
Got it. Okay. All right. So perfect. Wonderful. Moving on to 57J, noise control.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Going to 54.
Okay. Yep.
On 54J, hours of operation,
Mm-hmm.
so never mind, something has changed between the one that was sent to me and this one. Mine still says 6 AM.
This is what I was for.
So the original that you had in there did have different operating hours. Those were revised with assistance from the attorney's office to reflect hours that are more appropriate.
Yeah.
And the reason for that change was that if they were at 6 a.m., you'll have gravel trucks line up at 5:30.
Yeah.
So, that is why they're,
My God.
all right, are we good to go to page 57? Okay. 57J, the noise control. What is,
So my thought process on that is, noise control is gonna be attributed to various different event types, because we're talking about outdoor events.
Okay, so that's not gonna fall under the police power?
I feel like it should, because, I mean, you're gonna have events on the weekends, and I feel like the noise doesn't necessarily need to be addressed in zoning, because it's already addressed in a police power ordinance.
So maybe we won't-
But
That's a, noise control. For to ordinance, whatever it happens to be once we get there.
Yes, it's the disorderly conduct ordinance. 618.
I'm fine with that change. Is
Okay.
everybody else good with that?
Right, what are we doing?
So the 57J is gonna get basically, it's gonna say noise control, and then it's gonna say C, disorderly conduct, ordinance, whatever that number ends up being.
Okay.
We don't actually have that through yet. No, you did first read. didn't
We
you?
did the first read,
Okay.
and have approval, so
Whatever
next
that,
month.
whatever that ends up being, it'll say C ordinance number
Okay,
okay,
50.
that way it's
whatever.
not a zoning issue, and
Yep.
it's just
right,
a case by case basis.
right.
Moving on, page 59. 4.36B. No traffic discussion for schools related to drop off and pickup. Again, I would assume that is gonna be the same.
Yep.
Yep.
Site plan review with the parking.
Are they public schools?
I'm sorry,
Are
what?
they public schools?
Yes, well, K through 12, didn't it say? What is it?
Primary, secondary.
So a lot of that
Primary.
is regulated through the state.
Okay,
So we don't
scratch that.
need to worry about page. Okay, before we get over to page 61, I just wanted to touch on page 60. 4.37, that's the shooting range. Minimum lot size for commercial scale outdoor gun range is 20 acres. Again, that is a number that was put in there that we floated around, whether we were gonna do 25 or 40.
Thought we did 40.
I thought this one.
Correct, that is what we agreed on, again. Everything got carried over because we added a lot all at once, so that's gonna be 40.
Okay.
And page 61. 8,
That's the same, disorderly conduct ordinance. That was actually the reason that we modified it. Was for, page 61-8. So we didn't have to worry about the decibels tile.
so I could have sworn that when we were going through the shooting range specifically, Seth had said that we need to not. Because does the disorderly conduct have a decimal?
No,
Uh-uh.
it addresses loud and,
Boisterous.
yes,
And,
yes.
something
Party
acting
noise.
as nuisance.
Yeah.
So I think we need,
Nuisance, yes.
so I definitely agree with changing it in the first instance to the disorderly conduct. I do think in these specific uses. I feel very strongly that Seth was really explained to me, like, we have to have something, that can be measured at the property line. In a decimal reading. Now, I do remember talking like 70 was not, so for instance, I think it's 40 for the inverters and the solar, I think it's 45 for the battery storage. He and I did speak here recently about the need to, maybe kind of hone that in a little bit, and not, it's okay to have different decimal readings, obviously for different uses. But I feel Like he wanted to, like we needed to have an actual number there for that specific use. Um,
And that makes sense.
so I guess what I'd like to do is get clarification from him on that
Sure.
before we either take it out or change it.
So clarification from Seth.
Yes. Moving on, page 69, 4.39.
I think that's a non-issue.
Okay. Page 60, like 64D, prohibited outdoor sexual orientated movie establishment.
I'm not sure we went through that. The outdoor, wondering if we want the adult outdoor motion picture theater.
That's why it was industry. Cause I was not okay.
It was the theater specifically that you were referring to.
So the issue here is we just want to strike that out altogether. Or no? We're fine because we moved it to the industrial district.
I would strike it, but, that I'm one of 7.
Well, I didn't think we're here.
So any children to come in and.
Yeah, that's
It's
just.
fair, I would recommend giving your opinion on that.
Okay.
It'd be-
It'd be exclusionary, sure. Okay. I would agree with that.
What are you doing, Mark?
We're gonna get Seth's opinion on that as well, on striking that provision.
Okay.
It looks like page 78. No, I'm sorry. 70, 76, no language directing flow. Again,
No, strike it.
that's more of the same with the site plan review. So page 78. Wrecked or inoperable vehicles should not be allowed at any gas station for any length of time nor stored, and must be towed immediately.
And we put them on to.
Be the gas station,
Are you talking gas station repair shop or talking just?
So that reads that they're not allowed to store it there, like it has to go away. Are you uncomfortable with the period of time, 2 days?
Trying to figure out where we're at.
I'm still trying to understand who's.
78, 449.
Also, so a regular gas station. Storage. An operable wrecked, partially dismantled and repaired vehicle shall not be stored. Parked outside for a period exceeding 2 days. Such vehicles must be stored in the rear yard. I don't see any reason for them to be stored at all. They're typically towed if there's an issue.
At a gas station.
Yeah.
Well, there's two different things. It's vehicle repair shop.
But this is the gas station.
Right.
This is up here.
Kyle, let's strike the such vehicles must be stored in the rear yard where they shall be screened pursuant to this ordinance. I don't have a problem giving somebody 2 days to get a dismantle, a car that's had a problem, I think that the 2 days is fine. Is that acceptable there? To everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. Page 79. Like 4.5,
Non-issue.
non-issue, okay,
I'm sorry.
no problem. All right, and then the last couple things I just want to touch on, are obviously, section 4.44, the solar. Still needs to be updated with the zoning districts. We've already explained how we're gonna handle that. We are also still waiting on 4.54, the wind energy review from the attorneys. So there may be some revisions that need to be made on that, yeah. And then, so the next item looks like page 106. 3. Timelines of approval. So the issue here is that we have not listed any timeline for approval. Township will comply with state and federal requirements for approval timeline. Is that something we need to break down specifically, Kyle, or?
There are provisions for wireless communications under the. There are provisions that you get the application in. Of cell tower, we have X amount of time to process that. So there is a state requirement for it.
Okay. That clarify
Do you
that?
know the MCL that we can reference for that?
Type that in.
Okay,
Okay, so we'd like to reference that.
as reference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Page 106,
Timelines
number
for
3 at the
approval.
bottom. Okay, and that does it for Article 4. That's gonna be where the bulk of the question came from. Does anybody have anything that they've scrutinized on those standards in there that they would like to bring forth at this time? Claudia,
In 4, no, but I have just a couple other things,
okay,
so I'm good with 4.
okay. Are we through that section yet, or?
Not yet, we're almost,
Okay, all right, perfect.
sorry.
Okay, anything else on 4 before, we can like officially put that to bed, hopefully?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, perfect. So Article 5, the first thing that we discussed the hyperlinks already. Those will get removed. Looks like page 108, 5.01. The construction is to begin within 6 months. Language should reflect intent to move forward rather than construction. Breaking ground during cold weather could create a hindrance. Are the comments that were attached to that?
So 6 months standard,
Depends on the building permit, so as long as they're showing proactive work or continuous work, you're valid. They just don't want to stall out.
okay, that's, okay, perfect clarification. Thank you.
109, 5.02, no setbacks or lot line restrictions mentioned other than easement. Setback for detached buildings set at 5 feet, and then fencing requirement language for pools to be added. So
No
we're
fencing.
good on that. So I do have highlighted on that, so we're page 109C in 5.02. Minimum setback side and rear lot line. On detached accessory buildings, we have 5 feet and 10 feet. Feel like that is. Cody, I guess I would defer to like kind of what you're seeing, but that is a far cry from where we are now, is it not?
For accessory building?
Yeah, or is that?
5 foot from the rear lot line, currently we do, same side setbacks
Okay,
as the principal building, but yeah, 5 foot from the rear. And then, yeah, 3 foot from other structures.
okay, and that's across all different zoning districts, correct? Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I just wanted to clarify that. Moving right down to number 3, size. No accessory structures combined square footage shall exceed the floor area of the principal structure on the lot. That has to be changed. So basically, if you've got a house that's 1,200 square feet, you can only build a 1,200 square foot barn. You've got a 20-acre lot. So. My question to Kyle here is, can we just make that, in conjunction with the lot coverage? Like you're only allowed to cover 20% of your lot,
There we
so
go.
you can build as big a building as you want, but it's only 20% of your.
Yeah, some communities will do that, offer lot coverage but not size, but then they'll have to mount the structure, so that when they're not having like 6 coal barns that are blocked with a. We're thought
Okay,
on that. just say, you know, 5, you get limited to medical lot coverage permitted with more.
I think it's appropriate just to limit it to the maximum amount of covered space. I mean, you know, if you got 20 acres and you want to build 6 buildings, as long as you can meet the setback requirements. I don't think we should be in the business of telling people they can't do that.
Right.
Right, so how is this gonna read?
Well, then, let me ask, before
Yeah.
we get to that, if I can, here, there was also community provisions that would necessitate a setback provision for the height of the structure. So if you do have 1,000 square foot pole barn, you want it to be 18 feet, then it needs to be 18 feet away from the lot line. So that way you're not putting up a.
Okay.
Significant pole barn right next to the-
Basically a tree that's shadowing the neighbor there. Okay, I see what you're talking about.
So that there are some communities that do that, based on a certain size. So anything over, 200 square feet, 400 square feet would then be setback would be based on the height of the building.
So I think that maybe is something that we want to look at because we did, as you guys remember, we did up the amount of maximum height.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if we're talking over 1 acre, it's 24 feet. So, yeah,
Yeah.
over 1 acre. So I think that is a good point brought up by McKenna there. So can we change that to reflect the lot size coverage with that setback that you're talking about with the height, Kyle?
Yeah, what trigger provision would you like for size?
Height,
I
Like-
think that our old ordinance said not to expand more than 40% of the total lot size.
I'm sorry, a trigger provision for the height rounds.
Oh, the height.
Based on setback provisions. If you have a shed that, 8 by 8, do you really want it to be 7 feet away to the height of that, or do you want it 5 feet? This would be more applicable towards anything over a given square footage that would then have to be set back from the property line basis.
And we don't even permit things less than 200 square foot, so.
Okay. So, I mean, just quick math in my head, our setback is 10 feet from other structures, so the trigger, anything over either 12 or 15 feet, I would think. Or
So, based on the size.
based on the site, so you're recommending going on the square footage
Of
of the building itself? Okay,
So if you're 600 square foot pole barn or greater, then the setback would be dictated by the height of the structure. Or 500 feet, however, the planning commission would like to communicate on it.
all right, Cody, you said we don't permit anything under 2,
height of structure.
right? So 500 feet?
So, yeah, that's a pretty average, like prefab shed size too.
Is it? Okay. 500 feet, guy?
Like-
500 square feet, sorry, I'm not. I'm speaking incorrect.
That's a long building.
Yeah,
For 1 acre?
Yeah.
that's the maximum.
But that's over the acre, it's not at an acre.
So that's a bit,
You see what I'm
1+
saying?
acre.
So
right, but
1
so
acre
the
or
height
less.
18 feet,
is
height of the
like
wall.
a certain
Yeah. But
amount.
So how this is going to read is if your square footage is over 500 feet, the height of your building will be the setback.
Say that again, sir.
The height is the setback.
Not the-
Setback
So if
is
it's-
depicted or
You're-
by height.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
Help me out, Cody.
What do we say
Say
then?
it.
Your setback is determined by the height of the accessory building.
Okay.
So the,
At 500 square feet or greater.
the way it's, we can draft it saying, the setback shall be 5 feet from side and rear property line for detached accessory structures that are greater than 500 square feet. The setback shall be the height of the structure as measured from the average grade to the peak of the roof. Or you have to go midpoint, how would you like to measure?
Do the peak,
it?
right, Cody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, make Cody's job a little easier. Okay.
Well, through,
Sure.
so, okay.
Okay, yep. So,
I have something on page 113.
Okay, I just had a question, Kyle, on page 110, the home-based business.
Mhm.
A, permitted by right in all zoning district. A zoning permit shall be required prior to beginning operation of a home-based business. That seemed like contradictory to me, or am I just not reading that correctly? And I've read it a few times, but I've read a lot of this a few times, gets confusing.
So they are permitted, they don't need a special land use,
Okay,
but they have to follow these standards.
okay, and that's where that's where the permit comes in. Okay, all right, so I just, when I was reading that, I'm like, permitted by right, kind of insinuates that like, I don't need to come down to the township, but because they're the additional standards,
That
okay,
means you don't need planning commission review.
right, okay, all right, perfect, thank you. Page,
And then,
Go ahead.
50 Greenwood's comment on the sign size,
mhm,
2 square feet, pretty common for home-based businesses. The intent for home-based businesses is that you may have light traffic. You don't want it to be a commercial enterprise in a residential district. Having a larger sign than it implies that you have a higher foot traffic for the home-based business is intended to help. And then as you grow and exceed, then you move to, commercial or industrial. So
That perfect explanation. Thank you for clarifying.
113, you said,
Yeah.
okay,
So I just have a question under, D, maintenance and care. The waste shall be composted material and it's 20 feet from the adjoining property lines. So I think our other, ordinance was larger than 20 feet. So at my house and 20 feet away, my neighbor drops a big pile of manure, I'm gonna be pretty upset.
Well, so I think the issue that we have, and I know I've talked to Cody about this, is a lot of stuff regarding stuff. A lot of regulations regarding the keeping of animals is under the Right to Farm Act. And we haven't recognized any of that in the zoning ordinance. It continuously changes. I would recommend referencing it somewhere.
So the right to
Because
farm act says 20 feet.
The Right to Farm Act is actually nuisance based. It's to protect residential areas around the farm property.
Does it say 20 feet?
I don't know specifically what it says.
It's copied over.
so this is our livestock ordinance
This is the
put
one.
in. So this is what we currently have already. That, we did not like the draft language of the keeping of animals that they had in there.
Right?
So that has been taken out, and this is our livestock ordinance as it stands. So
Okay.
your question is the setback, or basically, for waste disposal, the setback 20 feet from an adjoining lot line.
Yes,
Kyle, is that pretty standard?
I thought.
It really depends on the community, correct?
Well, I know, I haven't thought this familiar with that.
Sure,
I am gonna modify it though to say that it's located a minimum of 20 feet away, because this
Okay.
reads, essentially someone could read it as file.
okay.
If I would modify it to say it's located a minimum, that would choose that potential comp.
There's stuff about, I think 100 feet from your well and everything else in there,
Right.
so I mean, that. And 100 feet from neighbor's well as well, so
Okay,
are you okay with just putting the word minimum in there?
yeah, I mean, I'd like it to be, at least 40 feet, 50 feet. But,
Well, the problem we're gonna have with that is that we allow the urban livestock in across multiple districts. So
Right.
your lot size
Different one, yeah.
is,
they wouldn't be able to.
in our AOS, no big deal.
Right.
In your neighborhood or whatever, you've got,
Oh, no.
Okay, so let's just go
Sorry,
with,
I was referring to a different one.
let's just go with the minimum.
okay,
Let's just roll with that because you're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're right.
no. Next is page 117.
I have something. on
Oh,
one.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, please, one at a time. Tony first.
Page 114,
Okay,
still on the urban livestock.
Okay.
Number 6,
Mm-hmm.
is there any way to get rid of that? On-site
On-site
slaughtering?
slaughtering?
I mean, going to a processor is so expensive and people are raising animals for food.
Feeds a lot on the purpose for livestock.
I would be very hesitant just to take that away. Just
No.
because, I mean, we, like,
Having something to replace it as to what the guidelines would be.
yeah.
I mean, if you can raise chickens, you can raise meat chicken. That's what they're for, and then they just die of heart attack. If you don't deal with it, and I mean, we're paying a lot for processing, and they just keep increasing it, so it's just,
Right.
and then the grocery store, it just takes some control back.
Maybe put in a requirement on some sort of screening in the more residential areas, that way, yeah, your neighbors.
Well, I mean, I think, but I mean, it's more than that though. Like you're gonna need a requirement for the screening, the waste disposal, so on and so forth. And I don't know. So if we take that out of this, that means you're gonna allow slaughtering of all the urban livestock that we have listed in there.
Right.
That's a very wide array of things. Like I understand, like the chickens is probably not as big of a deal, but I mean,
I'd say chickens and.
cow, pig, so on and so forth, like they're,
There are lots of
Can you do like small?
goats,
goats.
peas, and pygmy goats at that, goats, peas, chickens, rabbits.
I would have this money on it, I'd put on another thought for you, is that if you remove that, then you're opening up to operating a slaughterhouse in residential district.
I wouldn't think so. It's usually just during the summer. I mean, I know Eagle is allowing residents now to collect the wastewater and dump it on your property. And that's no more than 500 meat birds a year. I mean, you have to get a permit for it. They have to come over and make sure that you can do that, but,
So here's what I think we should do on that. For the sake of conversation, it seems to be something that has been brought up now several different times by several different individuals. Why don't we, put this on, I guess, the back burner in the sense that we're not gonna make the change right now.
Right.
But we can work with the attorney's office and the planner and see, and we can also ourselves go out and see what standards would look like. You get what I'm saying? If the commission is gonna entertain taking that out, I think that we need to have some pretty strict provisions in there that say, this is what you can do, when you can do it,
Right.
what your waste plan is gonna be, and so on and so
I
forth.
mean, I understand people don't want to see it, so.
Right, no, but what I'm
like doing it.
what I'm trying to say is that I think that is much, I mean, I don't think it's as simple as we're just gonna take that out. Like, I think there's a lot that needs to be done there.
So. I'm sorry, I don't wanna move on if
Okay.
you guys are still
No, no.
discussing. So, just so we don't have confusion, section 5.05, instead of labeling that part, keeping of animals, that'll stay domestic livestock / urban livestock. Cause I thought we were talking about rural initially. That's why I interjected with the right part.
Oh,
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
In 5.05.
Just change the header.
Animal to domestic.
Domestic livestock / urban livestock.
Yeah, you did that, didn't you?
We did on the table, but not on the.
In the book. the header.
Is that an okay change to make there, Kyle? We don't need to cross reference that, okay.
And it's Tony, to your point before we were interrupted by additional comments outside of, my hesitation on prohibiting this is from where we stand in having worked with our community. Again, I know this is not bad for the community, but like Mike said, and I appreciate this too, is I would really want him to button down on any kind of requirements if we permit on-site slaughter. There's a concern with that is if you are gonna permit urban livestock in legit residential neighborhoods, is that the type of activity or you really customarily see in residential neighborhoods? No, slaughtering. That is an agricultural / industrial use because of the amount of traffic it could have. Like you said, you have a processor. So if you're not gonna look at permitting on-site slaughtering, what are your provisions? I mean, I will see if there's communities out there that permit on-site slaughtering in residential districts. I don't know how prevalent they will be across the state, because again, a lot of them treat that as a agricultural use
Right.
or industrial. So that'd be my only hesitation on moving that forward to permit water.
Right.
We've had other communities I've worked with, planning commissions have had big concerns by putting a slaughterhouse in a residential area.
Yeah, I don't want a slaughterhouse.
No, and I agree. So then my concern on that, as Mike addressed too, is where do we draw that line between, what is your own personal salary and then what does it turn into a,
Commercial
background
business.
operation?
Yeah.
Well, we have a limit on how many animals they can have for their size.
Per
per
acre.
Parcel.
Sure.
So then you could only do those.
It's like you can't butcher 100
It's
chickens
not
in
for
a day, because
retail,
you're only
it's
allowed
just
to
for
have
personal use.
10 if you have a whole 1 acre.
Unless
Yeah,
the
you-
neighbor comes over. And we're doing the neighbors.
Right, but I mean,
But there's a lot of potentially unintended consequences.
yeah,
Yes.
and I think, like, I don't mind revisiting this later on.
For sure.
But I definitely
Yeah.
don't, I don't think we should not just willy-nilly take that out and then not have a better game plan. And I will say too, guys, I was gonna say this later on in my personal time, but like, in talking with the attorney and the planners, we will all be very surprised if we don't have an amendment or two within the first year of this zoning ordinance being back out there.
Oh, yeah.
So there, we can come back and, I mean, that's part of our job. We can look anytime we want at anything.
Next year is technically our 5th year, since we are
Sure.
so delayed due to
Right.
COVID, so
Absolutely.
just reference.
Claudia, you had something that you wanted
Yes,
to see.
on page 115.
Okay, yep,
C, general requirements. Go down to number 4, at the
Okay.
end it says see illustration, but there's no illustration. The old draft it was 2.3 and on page 92. But I didn't see it in here, maybe I didn't know what I was looking for.
Where are you at, Claudia?
Where are you?
115 one?
yeah, page 115, C4,
Okay.
under general requirements.
Yeah.
Oh,
But it says see illustration and then there's no, so it might even just be a typo, I don't know.
It might have been a carryover from when we've been doing all this, so I've made a note of the order, insert an illustration or remove that.
Okay.
So if I remember correctly, there were 2 illustrations there at some point in the first one, so I'm
Right,
good.
and that was on
Yep.
page 92.
So we just need to reinsert those 2 illustrations back in. Anything else?
That's going. You ever stood afar off and looked at a city?
Sure.
It's blinding someone.
Right.
But a lot of communities do, Kevin, have church that really introduce, like City Council do, dark sky type lights,
Right.
like, it's gotta be dark sky, what they call it, project off. A lot of ordinances, where the decades have had to, where they have to be that shoebox style or concrete cut off, so that way it's no reflect. So they're trying to get it back more, reduce light pollution, but some of these lights go for 30 years without any change, so.
Mhm.
Claudia, do you have anything else right
I
now?
do not, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, all right. Page, just the last few, looks like about 4 more, 5 more, and they look like they'll be pretty quick, guys. We'll push through here. I know it's getting late. Page 117, 509, A. This is a permanent trash disposal use as otherwise specified in section. Yeah,
Yeah, can we just state that this is regarding permanent trash disposal?
509A.
Yes.
yep.
Cause I thought it was rental when I first started reading the ordinance until I got down to temporary dumpsters.
So I would initially read that as, that's with their following shall apply one trash containers with 100 gallons of material. Your residential are 92.
Yes, that they are 96 gallon
I'm
toters.
looking at commercial. I was thinking of commercial business entities. Was what I was referencing with a large,
The yard container.
yes. I mean, we don't have to, but I'm just saying that's the way I read it initially.
All right, so,
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused on what you're.
yeah, So,
Stating in section A, the following shall apply to permanent trash containers. And then you're addressing the temporary in section F, is what I'm asking for.
Okay, so you would like us to modify the following shall apply to permanent trash containers.
Yes, sir.
okay. Page 120. A. 8.
Beautiful, see?
Yep, we are in section 6.
Before you go to 120.
Yep.
Page 19.
Yep,
Or
119. Yep.
Has all of those sections and everything that looks like you were taking them out everywhere else. But they're all listed in. And I know like section 8.03.j didn't exist. Thinking like, yeah,
Okay, so we need to, as part, as, I mean, and I'm sure they would have gotten there, but as part of that final review, Kyle, the sections that are listed there under these requirements.
Yeah, I've asked our team initially when we set this up to remove a lot of the references. That.
we saw that everywhere else but this one.
We'll remove those sections. All right, and then,
Disregard 120. I
okay,
already answered my own question when I had it.
okay. Perfect. Page 125. And this is in reference to the parking. It looked like so the boarding kennel is listed, but it does not as a use, but we don't have any spaces specified there. Dwelling units is blank. Roadside farm stand is 5. So vehicle dealership, we want to review that, and vehicle repair only addresses parking of 2 cars within the bay.
Can we add language that's vague, like we did before as determined by planning commission?
When I was saying for, and it's not a bad thing to have, no minimum standard, but like for a boarding kennel, then the applicant will come forward and say, here's what I want to do, here's how many spaces, and when they come forward, you guys as well, you can ask them, okay, what's your, where are your staff parking, and then those who are coming to drop off, where are they gonna be? And allow them to kind of determine, hey, I'm gonna have 4 staff, and we have to space 3 people at a time, so we have to keep
Perfect.
instead of having a minimum.
Right.
So, we'll maybe put it in here, provision 2 that says that no standard listed, the planning commission may.
Okay. And where are we gonna add that to?
I'll probably add that under section 701,
Okay,
prior to A.
prior to A, okay,
Yeah. Maybe change it to. Subsection A. Following. Parking standards shall apply. On it. There's no standard listed, no minimum. Something is required. Planning commission may modify, like you require. Their discrepancy based on characteristics. And propose. And then we'll bring that up. Great.
yep. Okay, so the important takeaway there is the 701 subsection A, and then there'll be the language that's attached there for that. Are we good there?
Can we just clarify, Kyle, that it's barrier-free parking? So, because we are addressing like vehicle repair and we're talking about cars allowed within a bay, but not the external structure.
Okay,
So that's
Six, 128.
128.
127, actually, vehicle repair is 2 per repair bay,
Okay.
but it's not talking about barrier-free parking.
So barrier free would be under the building code as well.
Right.
Which is different. So there's gonna be 2 per repair bay, and then
So,
do you? 'Cause I'm seeing this in other communities as well, do you wanna have a minimum for outdoor storage of repair vehicles?
no, just outdoor parking is what I'm referring to, all of these.
Right, but he's asking,
Cause like a vehicle repair facility, they're gonna have outdoor storage,
Mm-hmm.
right, and they may dictate how many they wanna have based on their facility size. Some large districts like in Kalamazoo, they have,
Yeah.
you know, a sales lot, and then that area just display area. So it's not regulated by parking, their parking will be regulated by the amount of office space, sales area, things like that. And then also parking based on the number of repair bays they have, so like this one, if you have 5 repair bays, you need 10 spaces, knowing that you're gonna have probably 1 car in the lot, one and another per bay.
Yep, so Mike, I'm not asking correctly. Does the language address that issue as well? Like, that's an all-inclusive for all of these business types. The language that we have in addition, that we're adding.
yeah, I would,
Yes.
I would say that, yes, I would say
Okay.
that covers that. Anytime that, you know, it's special use and you add that language referring to the planning commission, that gives us the opportunity to modify
Perfect.
without it being specifically listed in there.
The national trend in the state is trying to get away from minimum parking requirements.
Right.
Because of the large like Myers, Walmart, areas like that, they have 800 spaces and only 200 are used. Now you have acres of asphalt.
That's the issue that we had with our previous ordinance. Yes.
So some of these uses, we're trying to get away, even offer more flexibility by increasing the amount of restrictions. I know we dealt with one recently in the Township where the ordinance said they needed 180 or 200 parking spaces, but the applicant came back and said, I need 120 for my dealer repair bay. So he's like, why do I need to put in 80 extra spaces? So we eventually figured it out, but it was still more than he wanted to do and less than we kind of
Yeah.
want. But we also didn't want 300 spaces out there on the site. This also will give you guys that discretion, to be able to understand.
All right, just a couple more, guys. 136.
Can I get a,
Yes, I'm sorry, Kevin.
can I get a clarification here
Yes,
on the thing? For bed and breakfast on down through single family rental homes, it's 1 point. What, on the amount of required space, 1.1, is that a vehicle and a trailer hitch or what? I don't know.
Yeah, I thought about the
So-
motorcycle.
so is that just a typo, Kyle, or how?
I don't know.
Who knows?
That might have been done prior.
Prior to,
Coming involved with
okay.
you guys, that might have been like the very over from one.
Okay.
I didn't know if you're talking about length.
No, so
Or
when
what?
it's minimum required spaces, so there's some ratio too that will have based on the number of beds, right? Like they want it
Mhm.
to be. They don't want 2 spaces if you have like 2 beds. They may offer like 1 and a third space. That way, as you grow more, it's a way to have additional parking, but without having to have excess parking. So they do this funky ratio or unique ratio where it's to try to balance that. I think a good one. You know, like a typical single family residential now will have like 2 spaces, right? Not a half.
Mhm.
If it's a rental home, 1.3 spaces per bedroom, so if you had 3 bedrooms, you would need 4 spaces. So you'd have enough for each, probably 2 adults, 2 kids, and that's.
Okay,
I guess let's just, for clarification purposes, just take a look at what that is and where that came from. And if they just need to be changed to all to one, then
Mhm.
fine, or if they need to be changed to something that makes a little more sense than 1.1, that'll work. Yes, Kevin?
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, 136. Fences, 9.01 addresses height requirements only.
Disregard.
Page 148. Looks like 148C in down here at the bottom. The question is, can we verify how the landowner will be given written notice?
So we've had, for enforcement, I don't believe it's happened for zoning enforcement, it's happened for, code enforcement. Where, residents have said, especially with properties where, for example, the owner lives out of state, right? And he's like, I never received notice. Just verifying that, you know, they will receive written notice via certified mail or,
That's more.
okay,
Or, way the people are reference, something possible that would be turned on to the island.
Right.
So when I worked on that path, if I see the rental,
yeah,
they send it both to the owner record and the occupant. So they blow it out, you know, residents like occupant. Because you know, we know. And then if there's like a final notice, they do a certified letter to the owner record as well. It's all just gonna be more of an internal policy.
internal policies, okay. So
It's just
do
that
we
they
have a,
shall by written notice.
right, do we have a policy for that?
Not really,
No.
certain of our ordinances do decide that they be sent by certified mail or hand delivered. Or just, you know, send a letter. It really just depends on your ordinance you're looking at on what it says. Well, we kinda, or I don't send through mail, right, but Jim does, he sends quite a bit
Yeah,
of stuff certified when, you know, he really means business, he wants to make sure that. Just because, yeah, they can just ignore them forever and.
I would think,
They,
so I would agree with Kyle, that's probably something that should be addressed in the policies and procedures with blight and, you know.
Yeah, I'm referring to zoning though, the
Right,
zoning
the
violations.
zoning violations.
So here's my question. What policy do you address it in? The personnel policy? Or if we're not addressing it within a zoning ordinance? You know what? Don't even answer that. I will ask the attorney.
Yeah,
on how to
no,
address
that's,
that.
yeah.
that's more like a job process thing.
Yeah, no,
So-
it is.
So if we were gonna address it in the zoning, I would think we would do it under our, either the administrative, section where you're outlining somebody, you know, the administrator's job and that kind of thing, or maybe in the processes and procedures, but I would think we would wanna ask Seth how to handle that, to be honest with you. Are you
Yeah.
good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Because the safety is more of an internal like operation policy, not through the ordinance itself. It's more of a,
Yeah,
we didn't want to notice that rather.
so,
Or do you have to elevate it to a legal action? How do you defend, okay, here's what notice I've given to them. This is according with our staff policy or administrative order. Yeah.
yes,
I mean, I like
And-
having it in there, cause you know that you're gonna get a written notice,
right, yeah,
But
so the
how we
reason
get there.
that I'm even bringing this up is because we're essentially bare bones when it comes to, policies within the township.
Sure.
And we're in the process of development. And so if it's not in the zoning ordinance, we can certainly address it elsewhere. And that's for our own protection, not to scrutinize. So like, hey, we followed, we have this policy, we follow, you've been given written notice, here are all of the records, and then the attorney can take that to court should that arise.
Right.
Let's get Seth's opinion on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Page 160. Referencing condominiums in the dwelling unit section or the district allowance within the ordinances. So that comes. Stacy, do you want to go ahead and, I mean, that was,
So our old zoning ordinance had, standards for condominiums. When I look up dwelling units, we have senior living, townhouses, multifamily, manufactured single home, but, when we're referencing certain standards on page 160 and 164, it's referencing condominiums, and we don't even have condominiums as an option in our zoning ordinance. It was in the old one, right? But it's not referenced anywhere in the new one.
Let's go out with a bang, guys. This is the last one.
So Stacy, later on in definitions under dwelling units, we look at any building or part thereof containing sleeping, kitchen, and bathroom facilities designed for and occupied by single family. We look at some notes, things like that. Something you need to look into, I just haven't done that, we should be clear, classified as a single family dwelling, like it's not. To a single family dwelling unit. And then most projects we get are like higher density housing too, developers will call them like site condos.
Yeah.
They're still a single family dwelling unit, they're used differently, because they don't want to plat, so they do it under a site con.
Okay.
I've just typically run into them after this year, so
You consider them a single family dwelling?
single family.
So should we add that language in with, like, in respect to condominium projects, master deed, for example? When I'm reviewing the language, I'm like, where's condo, where are the condos? So can we just add single family dwelling? Is that what we are referencing to make it easier?
Do we have in the definitions something for condos itself?
You know, condos and duplexes are they're similar, but they're very different in the way that the ownership and control works. Which is why I think they were distinguished in the old zoning ordinance.
Why don't we, so Kyle, would you like some time to kind of
I'm gonna
look at that, and then we'll make sure that when we come back here, we'll straighten that language out one way or another, whether that's adding something to the definitions or adding to that language, based upon what kind, Kyle comes up with there.
Thank you for being patient with my list.
Okay, does anybody else have anything that is?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Barbara? Shirley, your hand's gotta be getting tired.
Yes.
Kevin? No. Stacy? Okay, so obviously we're involved in this lengthy public hearing here. I don't necessarily think that we are ready to send this off, so I will motion to continue the public hearing at our next regularly scheduled meeting, which is September 24th, September 24th, 6 p.m. here at the Township Hall.
I'll second.
I motioned. And Claudia second, Shirley.
Mhm.
And for the record purposes, let's do roll call on that, please. And thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Claudia Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Barb Jones,
Yeah.
Commissioner Kevin Bellison,
Yes.
Commissioner Tony Walters.
Yeah.
Commissioner Tugger, yes. Trustee Stacy Greenwood
Yes.
and Chairman Mike Stan.
Yes.
We have 7 affirmative, motion carried.
All right, thank you guys for all your hard work on that. Kyle, thank you for your patience on that. I know that was lengthy as far as that goes. All right, next item on the list is going to be public comment time for the public. Open to anybody for anything.
Yes.
They did. We open at 8:49 and we're closing at 8:49. All right, next item is going to be commissioner member time. Claudia?
I just want to thank the team for all their hard work. But my family's got a lot of hours in it too, and
Mhm.
Cody and Kyle and everybody, I mean, we've all worked together. I think we had a really good team. I'm proud of all of us.
Yeah, Cody and I talked about that. I think that, this, in my experience here, has been the best planning commission I've ever experienced. And I've been here over 30 years.
Bless you, bless you, Barb.
Oh, Barb, you're gonna get me all misty eyed over here.
Well, you're pretty darn good. Very good. And I just love everything you do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Shirley, do you have anything?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Thanks to everybody for remaining calm and sticking to business.
Right, absolutely. Yep, Kevin? Well, Connie
I'll just echo all the thank yous.
and Stacy?
I just wanna say that I know